All right, so welcome back. Today we are continuing to talk about how we solve quadratic equations by factoring. Okay. Yesterday, or if you saw the first video, we solved quadratic equations by factoring, and each time we had two factors at the very end. Right? We had two solutions. So today we're going to look at a few different examples that you will see that just look a little different. Okay. So let's start with this one. So the last page finished off on example 2, so I'm going to start here with example 3. So example 3, I have 4x squared plus 17x equals 15, okay? So automatically you should kind of think that this one looks a little different than the other ones have. So if you remember, we have some steps, right? And I'm not going to make you write all those steps because I have those. So the very first step is I need to make sure my quadratic equation is in standard form and it is equal to 0, okay? So if I look at this quadratic equation, is this equal to 0? No, it is equal to 15. So this is what we have to do. I need to make it equal to 0. So watch what I'm gonna do. Obviously I have a bunch of stuff over here, right? And only a 15 over here. So the 15 on this side is the easiest to get rid of, okay? So remember, to get rid of 15, we draw our line, okay? And I want to move the 15 over to this side so I can just have 0 on the right. So what's the opposite of a positive 15? I want to subtract 15, okay? And what we do to one side, I have to do to the other. So I'm going to subtract 15 over here. Okay, so on the left side, I'm going to have 4x squared plus 17x minus 15. Okay, I can't combine this minus 15 with either of these because they're not like terms. See, this one has an x squared, this one has an x, and this is a constant. So I cannot combine any of these. So I just list them out. Okay, then on the right side, 15 minus 15, that cancels out 0 pair, which means I have a 0 on the right side. Okay, now I have an equation that's in standard form and it is equal to 0. And now I can factor it to solve it. Okay, sometimes you might have to do that first step, sometimes you might not. You just need to pay attention and realize if it doesn't equal 0, you need to make it equal 0. Okay. So now that we have a normal problem, we just do it the normal way. This should be a kind of a review from yesterday. So remember, first thing we do, A, B, and C. So I have A here, B here. What happened? Hold on. Oh, no. Wow. Okay, cool. So Siri came on, my bad. So I have A, B, and C. Okay? So A, easy. Whatever's in front of the x squared. So we box that. My A is 4. Okay? B, whatever's in front of the x, or the variable by itself. Positive 17, 17. And then C, the constant, it is negative 15. Okay? Hopefully that is a review. We've been doing this for a week now. Okay, so now we have all that. We can make our x. Draw our x up here. Remember, at the bottom of the x, we put the b. So I'm going to put 17. At the top of the x is a times c. So 4 times negative 15 gives me, you can put that in the calculator, negative 60. Okay, negative 60, that's 4 times negative 15, okay? And then on both sides, remember, we draw our line. We put A on the bottom, so instead of A, I'm gonna put 4 on both sides. And then I'm gonna put that box on here. This is what we have to find, okay? So then we go to our equations, right? We've been doing this. This is the same stuff. So first equation, f of x equals, remember, A times c over x. So negative 60 over x. Second equation, g of x equals, remember the same thing, negative 60 over x, but we have to add the plus x, okay? Everything else is exactly the same. So, once we have those two equations, now we have to graph them. So let me pull up my graph. Okay, so on the graph, remember we typed the first one. So negative 60 over x, hit the three dots, table of values. Let's do negative 15 to 15. That should be good still. Okay, back to the calculator. Second equation, negative 60 over x plus x, three dots, table of values, boom. Okay, so now when we are here, right, when we're on the calculator, I need to look for, so I have to look for 17 in the g of x column, right? I have to look for my b value. I need to look for this 17, that's the b. Okay, so go to my g of x column, and I'm gonna swipe down until I find, there it is, 17. So I find 17 in g of x, and I'm gonna write down these two numbers, okay? So, when g of x equals 17, x equals negative 3, and f of x equals 20. So I'm gonna write that down. X equals negative 3, and f of x equals 20. Okay? So, remember we take these numbers, boom, box it, and we put them up here. So I have negative 3 and 20. Okay? So now we can go from here. So can I reduce negative 3 over 4? No, it just stays as negative 3 over 4. You could put that in your calculator, you would get the same thing, negative 3 over 4. 20 over 4 does reduce though. 20 divided by 4 gives me 5. Okay, so now we write our factors. So, slide down. So the factors are, I have x minus 3 over 4 and x plus 5, right? Because that one's a positive. Okay? But hopefully you remember, we cannot have this fraction in the factor. So we take the denominator and we bring it to the front. Okay? So my real final answer, my real final factors are 4x minus 3 and x plus 5. Okay? So now these are factored. This quadratic equation up here is factored, but we want to solve it, so we have to take it one step further. So if you remember, I'm going to set both of these equal to 0, okay? So I'm going to set 4x minus 3 equal to 0, and I'm going to set x plus 5 equal to 0, okay? So on the right one, the left one, remember we draw our line. Okay, I want the x by itself. So how do I get rid of this minus 3? Add 3. What I do to one side, I have to do to the other. Bring down the 4x. Minus 3 plus 3, 0 pair. Those cancel. 0 plus 3 gives me 3. Okay. Now I still want the x by itself. So I have to undo the 4 times x. So to undo 4 times x, we divide by 4. So that gives me a value of 1. So I have 1x equals 3 over 4. So that's one solution. I got that. Now let's go to the right one. X plus 5, draw our line. How do I get the x by itself? We do the opposite. So I subtract 5 from both sides. Draw my line. Plus 5 minus 5 is a 0 pair. That cancels. So I'm left with x equals 0 minus 5, negative 5. Okay? So my solutions are, I'm going to write that over here. So my solutions are x equals 3 over 4, and x equals negative 5. Okay, those are my two answers. Okay, and you have to have both because it has two solutions. So this means for this quadratic, this crosses the x-axis twice, at 3/4 and at negative 5. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So let's go to another example. So this one will be example 4. Okay, so example 4. Let's do 16x squared minus 8x plus 1 equals 0. Okay? So this one, I started off kind of easy. It's already in standard form. It already equals 0. We can just get right into it. Okay? So, first things first, just like we always do. A, B, and C, right? So A, boom, right there. It's a 16 in front. Oh, sorry. B, negative 8, right there. C is the constant, positive 1. Easy. Should be going really fast. Then we draw our X. At the bottom of the X goes their B value. So negative 8 goes here. On top of here is A times C. So 16 times 1 gives me 16, right? And then on both sides, fraction bar, 16 and 16. And then we draw our box, okay? It's all set up already, easy, okay? Then, to find what goes in those boxes, we gotta do the two equations. So I have f of x equals, remember, a times c over x, so 16 over x. My second equation, g of x, was going to equal the same thing. We just add the plus x. Okay? Then we go to the calculator. So, go to the calculator. Let me just delete these. Start fresh. There we go. Okay, so first equation, 16 over x. 3 dots, table of values. Yeah, we'll do negative 15 over 15. That's fine. That should work. Same thing. 16 over x. Slide over one. There we go. Plus x. 3 dots, table of values. Boom. Okay. So here, I need to look for negative 8 in the g of x column. Okay, so I'm going to write that down. So we're going to look for negative 8 in g of x column. All right, so let's find it. So I'm here, I'm looking, oh, it's right there. Negative 8, right? Negative 8's right there. So let me slide over, okay? So when g of x equals negative 8, x equals negative 4, and f of x equals negative 4. So this one looks a little different. F of x equals negative 4. All right, so we got that. I got x equals negative 4. Whoa, that's a bad 4. And f of x equals negative 4. So we box those, move them up here. So negative 4, negative 4. Okay? So now we reduce. So can I reduce negative 4 over 16? Yes, I can. If you have a calculator, you can do it. If you can do it in your head, even better. 4 over 16 reduces to negative 1 over 4. Okay? So if this is negative 1 over 4, this is going to be the same thing because it's the same numbers. So negative 1 over 4. Okay? So now we write our factors. So let's move down here. So the factors are... x minus 1 over 4 and x minus 1 over 4, right? Because these are the same thing. And they're both negative, so minus 1 over 4, okay? But again, they're both not proper. So we take the 4, bring it to the front. Take the 4, bring it to the front. Okay, so let's rewrite it. So my real factors are 4x minus 1, 4x minus 1. Okay? Now, we can solve them. Okay? So I need to set them equal to 0. Okay? So let's do that. So I have 4x minus 1 equals 0, and then 4x minus 1 equals 0, right? They're the same thing. So let's do the one on the left first, right? Just for fun. So 4x minus 1 equals 0. How do I get the x by itself? We start by drawing the line. Let me slide it up. We draw the line. And we're going to add 1 to both sides to cancel this constant here. So we draw the line. We bring down the 4x minus 1 plus 1 goes to a 0 pair. And I'm left with 4x equals 0 plus 1, 1. Okay? Now I want the x by itself. Hopefully you see the pattern. Now we divide by 4. This goes to a value of 1. So I have 1x, which is what we want, equals 1 over 4. Okay? Now, if I know that this, if when I solve it, I get x equals 1/4, do I even need to do this one? No, it's going to be the same thing. But here's the key thing. This is the key thing, right? Because this is going to end up being x equals 1 over 4, okay? If I have that x equals 1 over 4, do I have to write it a second time? No, I don't have to write it a second time, okay? So this one, my one solution is x equals 1 over 4. Okay, it's the same thing as this one. So I only have one solution. Okay, and let me show you how you can double check that. So if you were to go to your calculator, which you have, okay, if I was to type in this equation, right? If I was to type in 16x squared, what is it, minus 8x plus 1. Look at that. Did y'all see that? It only touches the x-axis one time. So I have one solution, okay? That's exactly what that means. That's what it's supposed to do. So because I only have one solution, it only touches the x-axis one time, okay? The other example, let me show you the other one so you can kind of compare. So this one, remember, example 3, we had two solutions, right? So let me show you what that one would have looked like. So let me delete that one. So if I do like 4x squared plus 17x minus 15, I get that, but let me zoom out. That's too much. There we go. So when I zoom out, I see that my quadratic crosses the x-axis twice. So that's why I have two solutions. Do y'all see how that's kind of coming together? Hopefully y'all do. Okay? So that one's done. We're going to do one more example and then we'll be done with these video notes. So let's go to number 5. Yeah, I think it's 5. 5. So number 5, let's do this. X squared plus 2x plus 5 equals 0. Okay? So let's do the same thing. Let's treat it the same way. Okay? So, A, B, C, right? A, B, C. So my A is what's in front of the x. Remember, if there's nothing in front of there, there's an imaginary 1. So my A is 1. My B, positive 2. My C, positive 5. Okay? So, got all A, B, C. Draw our x. On the bottom of the x goes the 2. At the top of the x is A times C. So that's 1 times 5, which is 5. And then here, they're both over 1 because my A is 1. Draw the box, and we keep going. Okay? So, we do our two equations. F of x equals A times C over x, so 5 over x. G of x is going to equal 5 over x plus x. Okay? So now, let's graph them like we normally would. So let's delete that, and let's start with 5 over x. And table of values, negative 15, 15, sure. Back here again, 5 over x plus x, table of values, boom. Okay, so now I am looking for, in the g of x column, I'm looking for 2. So I'm looking for, 2 in the g of x column. Okay, so let's do that. So let's scroll down. I don't see 2. And I go up. I don't see 2. I don't see it. Okay, so that's on purpose. I didn't mess up. So if you do not see it, okay, this is what I want you to do. So put a little thing right here. So if you can't find it, so if you can't find the b in g of x column, okay, I want you to graph it. So if you can't find the b in the g of x column, graph it. So let's do that. So I'm going to go here. I'm going to clear all this off. Okay? And I'm going to type this in. I'm going to graph my original equation. So I'm going to graph x squared plus 2x plus 5. Okay? So look at this graph. Right? What is different about that? Okay? See how it doesn't ever touch or cross the x-intercept, okay? That automatically tells me that I have no solutions, okay? So this means, so there are no real solutions on this quadratic equation, okay? Because this quadratic equation never crosses the x-axis. So it looks, so I'm just gonna draw a picture on the side. So it looks kind of like this, right? It's like that. So it never touches the x-axis. It never crosses the x-axis. So this means there are no real solutions, okay? So let me kind of write that down. So if the graph never touches or crosses the x-axis, that means, so I'm going to say then the equation has no real solutions, okay? Remember, I told you there was 3 different options that could happen. We could have 2 solutions, like our first example. Let me pull that up. We could have 2 solutions, like this one, right? We had 2 solutions. We could have 1 solution, like example 4, or we can have no solutions, like example 5, okay? Those are the 3 options that you're gonna have. Okay, so again, I'm gonna post all these pictures online. You're gonna have an assignment tomorrow on these video notes and the one from yesterday. Okay, so just be ready, and y'all have a good day. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know.